Hey everybody, welcome to Cinema Trip Reviews, and today we're going to be reviewing Stephen King's The Dead Zone. Welcome to Cinema Trip Reviews. I'm Wyatt, and today we're going to be talking about the 1983 movie The Dead Zone, based off the book by Stephen King. This is the first time I've actually ever seen this movie. I've always gotten it confused with The Prophecy. I have seen that one before. This one is actually my first time seeing it. I heard it was a good movie. I haven't really heard too much about the book. Just to get in a little bit about the some of the facts behind the movie and stuff here. Going into the book, apparently Stephen King wrote this in 1979, and it was his first book to reach #1 on the bestseller list. Also, the first book of his set in Castle Rock, which is also a town that's utilized in a lot of his stories and short books and short stories going forward. And they also have a TV show based off out of Castle Rock here, and I think it's 2 seasons deep. I don't know if they're having a third one. First season was good. I didn't catch the second one, though. This movie is directed by David Cronenberg. I was actually very surprised to see this when his name popped up there on the title cards there. He's famous for, a lot of body horror stuff in movies, a lot of crazy stuff in these movies. He's directed The Fly, Crash, Scanners, Naked Lunch. He has a lot of good, decent movies. And he also has a new one that's coming out here. It's apparently shocking a lot of people at Cannes Film Festival. I think it's Crimes of the Future or something. I think that's what it's called. Based off of some other Cronenberg stuff that I've seen, it's a little different. It's a little outside of his wheelhouse, I feel, compared to his other stuff. Some little things here and there. Apparently, Stephen King wanted Bill Murray in the title role of Johnny instead of Christopher Walken in this movie. I don't know if that really would have worked. I mean, you get pretty much peak Bill Murray at this point. That would have been in this movie. Known for his comedy, maybe it would have been pretty decent for him to go into a kind of a dramatic role there earlier in his career. But nonetheless, I love Christopher Walken in this role. I don't see anybody else being Johnny in this movie other than Christopher Walken. And speaking of Christopher Walken, obviously is in this. You also get Martin Sheen in this movie. He is crazy in this movie, and he plays it very well. You also got Brooke Adams, who plays Sarah, and Tom Skerritt, who plays the sheriff in the movie. He's got a little bit part, but it was cool seeing Tom Skerritt in the movie. Couldn't really find a lot of information about, behind the scenes of this movie. I don't know what's true or what's not, but apparently Cronenberg, during a lot of the shots where you see Johnny touching, someone and getting these visions, he's twitching and he has like these little spasms. Apparently Cronenberg was firing a gun with blanks in it. The twitch that you see from Christopher Walken is actually a genuine reaction during those, and it shows. I think it's pretty effective. Get into the movie a little bit here. Now, this is almost a 2-hour movie. I believe it's like an hour and 50 minutes, hour 45. But I feel like there could have been some stuff that was cut out. I could see how this movie would be boring to some people. It's pretty slow. Not a lot of crazy stuff or like I know a lot of people looking for action scenes or horror or something within these Stephen King movies. There's a couple tension-filled moments in the movie, but nothing outrageously crazy. So it's very slow. I think it's well paced in my opinion. But I don't know if there's really much of a payoff at the end to justify kind of the runtime, but I think it worked for me. I'm just saying, I don't know if it would necessarily work for maybe the modern audience at all. Get into the story here. We're talking about Johnny Smith, played by Christopher Walken. He is dating Sarah, who it's hinted out she is his student. At the beginning of this movie, he's an English teacher at this college. They have a relationship. They go out. They go to like an amusement park. He starts getting a headache. He takes her home. She says, "Hey, why don't you stay the night? It'll be all right." And he's like, "No, I'm just gonna head home." Should have stayed, Johnny, old boy, because you end up getting in an old wreck. Put yourself in a coma for 5 years. Damn. I cannot imagine being in a coma for 5 years. And 5 years, I feel like if you did 5 years now, you're missing so much. Missing 5 years then, obviously you're going to miss some stuff with like your friends and family and stuff like the people around you. But as far as the world, 5 years, man, nowadays you're missing a lot of stuff in 5 years. But you would think the coma would be the worst of it. But no, he wakes up after 5 years from this coma. He learns that Sarah is married She moved on with her life. He learns that he has this little power that he just discovers whenever he grabs a nurse. He has a vision that her daughter is in their house and it's on fire and she's trapped. She can't get out, and he's trying to tell her, like, call the fire department, call 911, get your daughter out of the house, it's on fire. Turns out, sure enough, it's true. He was telling the truth, and then he finds out he has this vision where he can kind of see within people's lives. He can kind of see their past, their present, and you find out later in the movie their future as well. Now, the movie itself, it is 2 hours, so it's a little more paced, but you kind of get these scenes back to back. He learns of the nurse's daughter that's trapped in the fire. He's talking to Dr. Wyatt. Whenever he touches him, he sees a vision of World War II, and when he was a little boy, and his mother puts him on this truck to get him out there and get him safe. She risks her life to save him, but she's left behind. And he tells her, your mom is still alive. I know where she's at. I know her phone number. Like, she's still alive. And he's like, how could you possibly know this? And sure enough, he calls her. He says he couldn't bring himself to talk to her after all this time, but sure enough, his mom is still alive after all these years. When he's being grilled by some of these reporters at this press conference, he talks to a kind of a snarky, smart-ass reporter. He gets on his nerve a little bit to prove a point, but he reveals that the reporter's sister killed herself, and that, that the dude loses it at that point. But this dude is not faking. He has this power that he can use. And on top of all this, he learns he has a power. Sarah is married at this point. He talks to his mom. His mom has a heart attack, and then he goes to visit her in the hospital, and she dies. Like, there's so much happening after this dude wakes up from a coma. It's a lot to take in. This is a heavy movie. It really is. It's a very heavy movie. And Christopher Walken, man, he plays it fucking great in this movie. He plays it fucking great. I feel like everything Christopher Walken in, he's great. I don't know how to say it. He's not like full Walken in this role like you kind of see in kind of later roles. But he plays it very straight, plays it very great. But after all of this, he moves in with his dad for a little bit. And the Sheriff Bannerman, played by Tom Skerritt, he comes to visit him, says, hey man, we got some rapes and murders going on within the town. We don't know who's doing it. There's no evidence. We don't know how to catch them. We need your help, man. We don't know where else to go to, who else to turn to. We gotta go to the last resort, and if this works, it works. If not, we tried. Johnny is a little reluctant. He's like, no, I can't do this. I'm sorry. Thank you for thinking of me, but I really can't. You get kind of a weird scene, I thought. Now, of course, you wanted to have a meeting between Sarah and Johnny at some point, but the meeting is so weird because she just kind of stops by uninvited, and she brings her son. She introduces them. They have a full day of catching up, getting to know each other again. He's playing with her kid and everything. And then they decide to do it. They decide to bang, and they get it out of the way. Just the sexual tension was there. I think she said something about, like, you waited long enough. And then she just tells him, like, all right, I know this was great. We had a great day, but this cannot happen again. We cannot have a relationship. I am married. I have moved on. What we had was great, but at this point, we just got to go our separate ways. Johnny decides, okay, fuck it. I got to move on. I got to move on at this point. I got to do something with my life. He decides to help Tom Skerritt find this killer and this rapist that's going around Castle Rock. And he checks out this crime scene. And I love the atmosphere of this scene. You get like this bridge with this tunnel, and it's all dark and rainy. And they're just kind of walking. I love the atmosphere of the scene. He's trying to look for clues. He's touching stuff. He's not seeing any visions or anything. But then he finds something, and he gets the vision, and he finds out it's the sheriff's deputy that's going around doing the person you least expected, the sheriff's deputy. And the car is gone. They figure out he's at home. They go to investigate. Tom Skerritt's talking to his mom. She's like, he's not here. Go away. And he's like, what? The car's like right out here, lady. She's like, no, he's not here. But Johnny sees him up in the window. He comes over and says, I just saw him up in the window. He's here. They bust into the house. Johnny's kind of talking with the mother a while. Meanwhile, all this is going on while they're talking to the mother, trying to get into the house. The deputy's upstairs, and he's going to kill himself. And this is probably one of the weirdest ways you could possibly kill yourself. He puts scissors between his mouth and his face, and then he falls forward on it. I don't know if that would necessarily kill you. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but that was a crazy way to do it. I feel like you had all these guns and stuff. You could probably have done it a much faster, easier way than doing that. That's just crazy painful, I feel. While Tom Skerritt's going up and he's investigating, he busts in and he sees him dead. Johnny like touches his mom and she's like, you knew all along. You knew he was doing this and you're protecting him. What is the matter with you? She pulls out a gun and shoots Johnny. So on top of being in a coma for 5 years, wakes up, finds out his lover is married and has a kid now and moved on. His mom died. He's seeing all these visions, terrible visions of people, and then he gets shot on top of this. But he also helped solve a crime in the process of it. So after all of this, and it culminates with him getting shot, he says, fuck this, I have had enough. And he decides to move out, kind of start a fresh life. Apparently he didn't move far enough away, though. The new house he moves into, pretty nice house, pretty fucking nice. Looks like a lot of stairs for a dude that has a limp and has to use a cane now after getting shot. But that's besides the point. But he starts tutoring kids and teaching again within this house, kind of making a new life, starting over, starting fresh. He meets Roger Stewart, who's a wealthy businessman, and he's trying to find a tutor for his son because nobody can find a way to reach him. It's just not clicking. He doesn't want to work. He's not working with a lot of the teachers he tries to provide for him. He agrees. He said, fine, I'll go talk to your son. Upon going to the house for the first time, first meeting with Johnny, he runs into Greg Stilson, played by Martin Sheen. And he is a up-and-coming political man running for senator, I believe. He's a smooth-talking, very Rust Belt guy. He's trying to lobby for the workers and the everyday working man, blue collar people. He's handing out these badges. He's always trying to promote himself. At this new house where Johnny moved into, it's across the street from this park where they have all these signs and promotions for his campaign that he's running. Even after Greg Stilson leaves, Roger tells him, like, I hope that guy doesn't get elected. He's nothing but trouble. He's gonna be a problem. And he's like, well, what you kind of seem pretty friendly there. What's that all about? And he's like, hey, you gotta know people. You gotta put your foot in the door. If they end up becoming important people, it's not a bad person to know at that point. You want to have them on your side. Which he's just playing a game at that point. He's playing a game. Johnny gets along with Chris. He starts teaching him. He starts tutoring him. They're getting along. He kind of gets him to come out of his shell a little bit. He ends up having this vision of Chris where Chris and his buddies are out playing hockey on this pond and they fall through and they all drown. Pretty much. Pretty dark, once again. So he goes and he pleads to his dad, like, listen, you cannot do this. You cannot let them go. Like, they're going to die. I'm sorry. Like, all this stuff I've predicted before is true. Why won't you listen to me? Roger's just blowing him off. You're crazy. He's crazy talk. We've been planning this for a while. He deserves it. Get out of my house. And Christopher Walken fucking loses it at this point.
Now, don't give me any argument. The ice is gonna break!
It convinced Chris. It spooked him a little bit. He's like, you know what, Dad? Not gonna do it. Even though we don't know if it's true or not, I'd rather not take a chance and drown. His dad's like, fine, fuck it. Stay here, whatever. Sure enough, his two buddies die. They drown, man. Dad's pretty shook at this point. Should have listened to him. But once again, it's pretty damn dark. But at this point, you really kind of figure out that he can change the future. A lot of these other visions that he's had were kind of the past or what's going on in the present. This is one of his first visions where he figured out, I can see what's going to happen in the future, and I could possibly change the events before they happen. Apparently, they talk about it a lot more in depth in the book than in this movie, but that's the dead zone they're talking about. He can see what's going on in the future, and then he can change it. Apparently, that's the dead zone. Now, if anybody's watching this and I'm wrong, leave it in the comments. That's fine. I did some research. That's what I found. But now he knows that he can possibly change these events before they happen, which sets up pretty much Act 3 of this story. We talked about Stilson. Johnny ran into Greg Stilson, played by Martin Sheen. You actually get a scene with Martin Sheen and his bodyguard. They come to this this newspaper place, manufacturer or whatever. Dead of night. One person working there still putting the paper together. And he says, hey, man, I understand you're not the biggest fan of mine. But you have a pretty belly piece of news that's coming out tomorrow that we can't let out there. So you're gonna have to not put that paper out." He's like, "What are you talking about? It's going out in the morning. You can't stop it now." Martin Sheen has pictures of this dude and his mistress. It says, "Oh, be ashamed if your wife found out about this. It doesn't look like the wife, such such." So pretty much he's blackmailing him, and then he threatens to kill him if the paper comes out as well. But you really find out that Martin Sheen is a slime ball. He's not this goody two shoes that he kind of hardworking dude makes him out to be. You really see that dark, gross side of Martin Sheen in this scene, which sets up what's going to happen here in the third act as well. So Johnny is at his house. He gets a knock at the door. Someone is kind of giving out buttons, kind of promoting Stillson, telling him like, "Hey, do you know about his policies here?" And it's actually Sarah's husband. He sees Sarah coming walking across the street to him. She introduces Johnny to her husband. Says, "Hey, we're having a rally and everything." And then there's a scene where he actually goes to the rally looking for Sarah. He wants to talk to Sarah. And Stillson ends up showing up. And as he's walking through this rally, everyone's trying to talk to him. Everyone's cheering for him, shaking hands, kissing babies. And one of the hands he shakes was Johnny's. And when Johnny shakes his hand, he gets a vision of the future where Stillson is president. Stillson is a little unhinged. And Stillson, he talks about having this dream of becoming president, which is pretty interesting because he does become president multiple times throughout his career in these movies and TV shows. But he has a dream of becoming president, and that's really his end goal. But in this vision that Johnny has, Stillson is president, and he's unhinged. He's talking to the generals. He woke up in the middle of the night having this vision that it needs to be done, and he's going to pretty much start a nuclear war. It seems from what they're hinting at here, and he's forcing the general to put his handprint to get scanned so he can press the button to launch these nukes. So pretty much he's just like a warmonger, madman at that point, and Johnny knows, like, I got to do something about this. And he's very confused. He's having an internal crisis about what to do with this information now. And he goes and he talks to Dr. Wyatt, and he asks him for advice. Like, listen, you were in World War II. Like, you were a part of that. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back and see Hitler and kill Hitler and alter time and stop all this terrible stuff, all these terrible things from happening, and by killing this madman, would you do it? And the doctor is kind of reluctant to answer at first. He's like, I don't know where you're going with this. I don't like where you're going with this. But he's just saying, answer the question. Please answer the question. And the doctor tells him, like, yeah, I would have to. It would be my duty. I would have to kill him at that point to, stop all these terrible things from happening. And at that point, Johnny knows what he has to do. It's crazy at this point because he's starting to, he gets a gun. He has a gun. He's getting it out. He's getting all of his bullets. He's loading up. He writes a letter to Sarah telling her pretty much like there's a sacrifice he has to make for the greater good, and he's going to do it. And it most likely means risking his life. He packs up all of his stuff. He finds out where this rally is going to be held at like this like city hall. He hides up in this like little balcony area. He even sleeps there for a while. And as they're coming in and everything, he gets ready. And this is a tense scene. Probably one of the most tense scenes of the movie here is at the very end. And as Stillman gets up to make his speech, Johnny goes for it, and he takes his shot, and he misses. And even though he missed, he goes and he tries to take another shot again. He misses again. Stillman goes over and he grabs Sarah's baby, and he uses it as a human shield to either stop the bullets or stop the dude from shooting at him. And the press is there. They start taking pictures of it happening. Johnny cannot he can't do this. He can't shoot at Stillman while he's doing this. That's terrible. Stillman's bodyguard shoots Johnny, and he falls off the balcony. Everybody is running for their lives, trying to escape. Stillman's pissed. He runs over and starts kicking Johnny and beating him up. Johnny grabs Stillman, and he saw that it worked. Because even though he missed, he didn't kill Stillman. By Stillman taking that baby and holding it as a human shield to save his own life, they got pictures of it. They put it in the press, and it pretty much killed his own career. It was political suicide at that point. Nobody was going to elect him. No one wanted anything to do with him at that point. He's a scumbag. So he has a vision of Stillman sitting alone in his house and putting a gun to his head and killing himself. And Johnny knows at that point he did right. He did what he was supposed to do. He stopped it. He stopped a nuclear attack of some sort. The last part of this movie is Sarah she's crying. She doesn't know why this happened. Like, why did you do this, Johnny? Why did you do this? And he's just sitting there, and she even tells him, like, even though you just tried to do this terrible thing, she even tells him, I love you. And that's all Johnny needed. You know, not only did Johnny possibly save thousands, if not millions of lives, but he also got to hear that Sarah loved him one more time before dying. And that's how the movie ends. Like I mentioned before, the movie was a little long at 2 hours. I feel like they could have cut some stuff out to trim it down a little bit, but the ending worked. Made it all come together. The tension in it was great. You didn't know what was going to happen. And then when he misses that first shot, you didn't know is that going to change anything? What's going to happen? This movie, like I mentioned, even though there's not a lot going on as far as like action, you get some things here and there, a lot of dark material they're talking about, a lot of dark things they're talking about. I think the story in itself was great, and I actually am interested in reading the book at this point just to see how the differences between the movie and everything. I love the character development in it, and I mean, he does come in contact with a lot of different characters and a lot of different pieces throughout this movie, but the one constant is Johnny and Sarah throughout this whole thing. And pretty much Christopher Walken's almost in damn near every single scene in this movie. But you really have his character development, and you see his emotions and his thought process throughout this whole movie, and that's what makes it a great movie, in my opinion. And Christopher Walken acts the shit out of this movie, and so does Martin Sheen. Martin Sheen can play a damn good villain. He's fucking maniacal in this movie. But all in all, I think it was a pretty good movie. I wouldn't say it is a fantastic movie. It's not a masterpiece by any sense of the word. But it was very enjoyable. I wouldn't say I would buy it. I wouldn't miss it. I would definitely recommend it as a rent, though. I went and I saw it on HBO Max. I think it is on Hulu as well. But I definitely recommend this movie for anybody who hasn't seen it. And of course, it's Christopher Walken, so you can't really go wrong. I know he has some bad straight to DVD, straight to home video releases later in his career that are kind of bad. And of course, David Cronenberg did a great job with this movie as well. This is one I'll probably come back to eventually, but it's not something I would rewatch all the time. I feel like there's not enough to it where you're kind of missing something each and every time, or you're going to see something new each and every time. I'm pretty sure I got everything going throughout the movie. But like, once again, I'm interested in reading the book just to see what the big differences are between it and what the book adds to the lore itself. Now, I know they did make this into a TV show for like 5 years. I think it was on Sci-Fi. I didn't do as much research into that because I obviously wasn't watching the TV show. But apparently it was pretty good from the little bit that I saw people talking about it online. But I don't know, maybe I have a more chance of reading the book than watching the TV show. But like, once again, I definitely really like the movie. I definitely recommend it. Go rent it. Go watch it on HBO Max or Hulu if you can. But yeah, that's the end of the review. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure to check out all the content across the Waves 5 channel here. If you're watching on the Waves 5 channel, make sure to go like and subscribe on the Cinema Trip Reviews channel. We have it at his own separate channel now. We're going to be uploading the reviews too. Make sure you check that out. And if you're watching it on the Cinema Trip Reviews channel, head on over to the Waves 5 channel and subscribe there as well. Make sure to follow us at Waves 5 Media on Twitter, and we'll see everybody next time.